Now, everyone's making it in film and TV, but we don't really know how. Here, we uncover the truth. Welcome to the Your Cinema podcast. Welcome to the Your Cinema podcast. This is the place where we explore the truth about the film and TV industry and theatre and hear it directly from those who are smashing it in their areas. Today, we have got an amazing guest as always, but she is a special guest, I would say, because we have been on the journey with her for many years. She's a producer, a director, a writer, and I would also say a silent glove in so many things that we'll find out one day, and some things we won't ever need to find out. But she's a great supporter of a lot of people. She's worked on projects for Sky, Netflix, like a lot of things. But well, not but, and she's also the producer on the groundbreaking superhero drama Supacell, whoop, 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 created by Ratman. We've got Sheila Nortley in the building. What's going on? How are ya?
Yeah, all good, all good. Really excited. Obviously, Supercell is out now. So after 5 years in the making, 2 years I've been on board, it's showtime now. So that's really exciting.
Wow. Okay. Do you know what? So you said some really big statements that I don't want to gloss over, right? You said 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
How did Supercell come about for you?
Well, for me, okay. So 5 years in the making is specific to Ratman. That's when he had
Yep.
the concept, and many people have seen the clip now where he spoke about it on the back of the bus and said, "Imagine if like people from ends had superpowers, right?" And 5 years later, that's where we are. In terms of my involvement, I got on board in 2022 when, this was going to happen now. It was just a matter of how and where and when. And I just finished, Stay Close had been released. Actually, sorry. Yeah, so Stay Close had been released the previous year and had done really, really well.
Yeah.
And so I'd already kind of been speaking with Netflix about another show potentially. So everything just aligned for this to be the show that I was gonna produce on.
Wow. Now, I've got a question for you, right? Is this the biggest scale show that you've worked on to date?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I had never worked on, something so VFX heavy before as well. Obviously, prior to that was Stay Close, which was again a huge high-end TV show.
Yeah.
It was a thriller, so it was much more domestic, I would say.
Yep. Yep.
This is a superhero show, so you have, it was a whole nother level in terms of scale. So yeah, it was a really great show to be a part of.
I love that. So, given the scale and all of these new facets of, like, special effects, etc., etc., because like we've seen bits on the behind the scenes, but then also, like, I remember Junior he was telling me like the scale of, like, even the green screens. He was like, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
So you that's all good for an actor to say that, but you producing, you have to make all of this possible, innit? So where do you begin when something like this, like, it's like, cool, you're producing it, what's going on?
Begins with the showrunner. It all begins with the showrunner and what his vision is, and we just look at how best to execute it, obviously within budget and within time. So we have those parameters where Ratman's creative vision and Sebastian Till, who directed a block of the show as well, they
Yeah.
have their visions, and obviously the role of the producer and the whole kind of production team is to execute it to the highest possible standard within time, within budget, and just to make it happen. So yeah, it was. I guess that was one of the biggest challenges of the show. Was it's such an ambitious project. You want to do it justice. How do you tell it in the best possible way? The big VFX, like I know the scene that Junior is talking about. It was Piccadilly Circus, where we couldn't block off like Piccadilly Circus. It just wasn't feasible. So we built it, and we had green screens all around for the background, but in terms of the actual foreground, we built kind of a mini Piccadilly Circus. So, we just made it happen. And yeah, it looks great. Looks
So
really.
okay, all right. So right from I I'm just thinking right from a from an indie perspective,
Yeah,
the context of
yeah,
how do you do that? Because I guess it sounds like so you're sitting with Raps and Sebastian,
yeah.
and like what I can see in my mind is cool. They're explaining the vision. There's probably a mood board. Maybe there's some YouTube links of references of like, oh, you know when they did that, da, 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 da. And
Yeah.
then you've got to be the container to take all of this creativity and then make it practical, whilst also leaning on your creative understanding to then it's like a language transfer, right?
But that's the beauty of producing, and that's what I love. It's like you've got the
Mm.
creativity and that creative energy, and you are kind of transferring that into something practical. And so what we do, we take that information and we
Yeah,
meet with the VFX team and the SFX team because they had to work very, very closely,
yeah,
as well as kind of costume design. Sometimes it's every single department. Sorry, I'm gonna Pierre. Is this going to
yeah.
be edited so I can we can chop it up or not really?
Yeah, do you know what? Not really, but like where we need to, we can. But in the ideal world, I don't. But
All right,
yeah,
that's good to know. I'll try not to make
yeah,
any mistakes. All
yeah,
right, I
yeah,
will answer that one again though.
yeah. No, cool.
Yeah, so what was the question? How do you so that's the joy of being a producer is taking that information and figuring it out, just figuring out how do we do this. So
Mm,
in terms of where we'd start, it would start with the director and the showrunner's vision.
yep,
And we'd kind of get all the HODs who are involved in that particular moment to figure out how to do it. So we had an amazing VFX team, we had an
yeah,
amazing SFX team, we had an amazing art department. And so those three departments, we'd sit down, we'd iron things out. They'd feedback on how much things would cost. Sometimes it'll be like, well, if you want that to blow up, then that can't fly. Or if you want that to fly, then that can't turn invisible. So it was a case of literally sometimes having a menu and looking at budget and thinking, if we do this, then we can't do that. If we build Piccadilly Circus, something's got to give elsewhere. Which isn't always fun for the directors, but again, as a producer, it's problem solving and it's something that has to
mm,
be done. Otherwise, you'd end up with chaos. And on a show of this scale, that's not an option. So, just having conversations with the HODs, conversations with the directors, and obviously with our showrunner at the helm of it all.
yeah,
Um, that's how we made magic.
man. So how long were you working on the show for? Like, how long did it take to
I
yeah,
would say I was on board from April 2022
yeah.
till April 2023. So about a year I was on board. Yeah,
Okay, so the reason the reason why I'm asking is because like directors they'll do blocks, right? Because and like you were saying before, it's like it's so much work
yeah,
that more than 3 episodes is gonna be a lot.
yeah,
But working on a show like of this magnitude, right?
mm,
Based off of what you said,
yeah,
you are it for me it sounds and feels like you're doing a few different jobs which all falls under the role of producer because the directors are here
yeah,
doing their thing and then the VFX and all the other teams are there but it's like you're the in the middle link to everyone.
yeah. But that is the one job of the producer. It's to be
Mm,
it's to be that kind of connector between all the different departments and overseeing all the different departments and making sure everyone has what they has what they need to do what it is they need to do. So that I'd say is one of the main jobs is kind of managing all of the HODs, and again, kind of wherever there is conflict, creatively, logistically, financially, to bring that back to what does Ratman want to do? What story are we
yeah.
trying to tell? And I think that's why that was part of the value that I really wanted to bring to the show
Hmm.
was understanding as a Black South Londoner myself on a show about Black South Londoners, what are the most important things that Ratman wants to convey culturally, you know, and making sure that comes through authentically. Because there's always things you can cut from budget. Oh, why do we have to shoot at this particular location? Why do we have to show this in this? Like, why do we have to? And it's like, because this means something to us. Like, this is really important. So, um, yeah, everything I guess would come back to that creative vision. But then there's
Um,
also lots of other things to consider as well.
Do you know what, right? I love what you just said because it sounds like you had to remind some people when those, let me not say conflicts, those creative solutions were needed in terms of like, all right, cool, but what story are we trying to tell here? What do we need to achieve here? And if this is what we need to achieve, well, then this is why we do need to do it, or this is maybe why we don't need to, even though
Yeah.
it's quite cool. Given that you were in this, dare I say, pressure cooker for about 12 months, how do you manage that?
How do you
Like,
mean?
like it, for me, it sounds like it's quite a lot, and it's quite a lot of work and interaction over a sustained period. Obviously, you're used to it, right? It's not your first TV show ever. But like the stakes are so high. There's also that cultural aspect of like, listen, this is about us, and I'm from this place. I'm not dropping the ball. There's also that, probably that other element. But how do you manage all of that on a day to day?
Um, oh, that's a lot. There's a lot you asked there. I think working on a project for so long, yeah, you're invested in it. You know, like you are
Mm,
fully invested. It's not something that you're kind of just going to be able to dip in and dip out of for however long you're part of this. It's like it has your full investment, your full time. It's a priority. It's the priority in terms of just getting it done and getting it done well. I was
mm,
really fortunate in that we had a great team of people. You know, I was working very closely with Sebastian Till, the Block
yeah,
2 director, working very closely with cast, and then of course with the whole kind of production team, exec producers,
mm,
Mukhtar Mohammed, Steve Searle, series producer Joanna Crow, so associate producer Henrietta Lee. So there was like a huge team. I just want to name everyone because I don't want
yeah,
anyone to
yeah,
say
yeah,
you didn't mention me, but
yeah,
it's a big team of people. So yeah, it's kind of like that's you. This is the company that you're going to be in for a year.
yeah.
This the this is the mission, and
Mm,
I
mm,
quite enjoyed that actually because you really get to understand each other's workflow. You get to understand each other's sensibilities as well. You're working with different people who you may not have worked with before,
yep.
and just those relationships. It's not always easy, you know.
Mm, yep.
I always used to like describe it as like a bit of a big brother house where it is that you're in each other's faces pretty much all the time, given these tasks every day that may seem impossible. Um, so it's not always easy, but it's always again when you have like a really strong idea of what it is you're trying to achieve and the um the objective is really clear, then that always gives you
Mm,
something to come back to. It's like, does that do what we set out to do? Yeah.
amazing. I love that. I love that. Now, I love shows like this, like shows that seem to hit the nail on the head with regards to showing the ends like authentically. Why why do you think this show is so important?
This is the UK's first black superhero show. It's the UK's first black British superhero show. So it's important in terms of history, in terms of being something that is groundbreaking, in terms of seeing black people in spaces that historically we've been kind of told we didn't belong, really. So that's big. It's so big to hear people who look like us and talk like us and um, grew up in the same environments. And when I say that, I mean we're not a monolith. Everyone knows that we're not a monolith. What's interesting again about the show is you have five very different characters. So even within those five, you have five very different Black British experiences, and there are many more than five. I wouldn't put it on one show to represent the whole of Black Britain, but what it does do is for the first time show Black British characters in a genre in which we've never been seen. And it's like that when you watch it, you'll have those moments when you'll be like also like we're throwing cars now, like we're what, this is us. It's there's something about that that is something that is very, very hard to quantify or put into words. But it is again the power of representation, the power of what we do as storytellers.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
it's almost like we didn't necessarily, until you see it for the first time, is when you realize, oh, we haven't seen ourselves like that before, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I guess as well, in terms of other creatives and other filmmakers, I'm hoping that will open up more, in terms of seeing Black people in genres that we haven't been seeing in yet. We've had a couple of rom-coms now, still
yeah.
very far behind our American counterparts, but we had Boxing Day, we
Mm,
had Rye Lane.
mm,
We want more Black British rom-coms. We just want more of everything.
mm,
So
mm.
I think this will open up, hopefully, people's eyes in terms of marketability,
Yeah.
and kind of Black British characters in the mainstream, without having to dilute or exploit our culture.
Yes. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And you know what? Having such a strong viewpoint and passion point about what you just said, it is such a huge reason why it is important that you are a producer on this.
Okay.
Because you're at the helm of everything. So there's like one thing that used to irk me a lot is
Mm.
like watching certain films and I'm like, but we don't speak like that.
Yeah.
Or but we don't
Yeah.
wear that. We really don't wear that. And I can't focus on the story because you've got that bit wrong. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so but yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
authenticity was really, really important, and again, not diluting anything. So, with anything that Ratman writes, he does tend to put his own lived experience in there, and
mhm,
whether that is palatable or not palatable, or like people want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. It's like, this is who he is. This is what he wants to talk about. This is how this is his story, and this is what he wants to share. And I do really respect that about him. It's one of the
mm,
biggest things I respect about him. There's no code switching there. He comes in,
mm.
he is who he is, and you cannot help but respect that. Like, you cannot help but respect that way he comes into a room and commands that respect. This is someone who knows themselves, and he's a natural leader. I always remember this time. It was our first ever kind of big production meeting, and the way he just came in, like we were all just kind of waiting for him. We had all the different HODs and all the producers, and he just came in with this energy that's like, and he just stood at the head of the table and commanded everyone's respect, but not in a way that was, there was no bravado. It was just natural. Like, it was all eyes on him. This is who we need to listen to. This is the showrunner. Everyone's getting their notepads and pens out, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. This is what we need. This is what we need, and it's so, so beautiful to see that. Um, like, yeah, so much respect for Ratman, so much respect, and I'm so excited about what's to follow. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. So given that, right, and you've sort of touched on this a little bit, but what was it like actually working with him? Because yeah, like creatively,
Yeah,
he's broken ground in a huge way. So
absolutely.
what was it like
Absolutely.
working with him?
It was incredible. It was very inspiring. Again, he's a real visionary, and different directors have different styles. In fact, him and Sebastian have very different styles of
Okay.
working. Both incredible directors, but they both worked incredibly differently.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just yeah, both of them had a very clear vision, and they also worked together in order to ensure that the vision was cohesive. If you've got different directors on the same show, you don't want it
Yeah.
to feel like two different shows.
Yeah.
So it was a case of Ratman continually being in touch with the second block, and kind of letting us know what was really important to him about each episode. Certain emotional beats were really important for us to map. Um,
Mm,
Especially when you're
mm,
crossing over from a different director. Like, where is this character when we leave episode 2, and how do we make sure that he's still in that same emotional state in ep 3? And that would translate into costume, the kind of colors a character would wear, or like what's in the background. For example, if someone's really depressed, what would their bedroom start to look and feel like? So just obviously these very small details and nuance, but we had to make sure that there was a seamless transition in both kind of emotional arcs within the characters, as well
yeah.
as visually and aesthetically, because we had a different DP on both blocks as well. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, both of them were incredible to work with. and with Ratman as our showrunner at the helm of it all,
Yeah.
um, yeah, he had a very, very clear idea of what he wanted, which was incredibly important. You if he didn't know what he wanted, nothing would have worked. But he was that, yeah, the constant throughout the whole show.
I love that. So you touched on something which is really interesting in terms of raps playing raps having various roles. So director, showrunner, also writer. With how what was it? How did he strike that balance in terms of being clear about what's important in the blocks that he didn't direct, but still allow Sebastian the creative space to put his stamp on it?
I would say, to be honest, any show that has more than one director, sorry,
Yeah.
I would say any show that has more than one director, it's going to have to be a conversation about how each director likes to work, how each director likes to be communicated with, because it's so full on. So when Ratman was directing his episodes, Seb and I were in prep for block 2 episodes,
Yeah.
and then when Seb was shooting block 2, Raps was in prep for episode 6. So everyone was constantly working. It was very hard to find a time when, in fact, there was no time when no one was working on something that those conversations could happen,
Yeah.
except for prep. So prep was, I'd say, the time that the two directors were able to spend as long as they possibly could together to ensure that everything was, all the information that was important to Raps was kind of given to
Mm.
Seb, and that Seb then knew that within those parameters that
Yeah.
he could now make his own creative decisions, just knowing this is what's super important about this scene, this is what Raps really wants from this scene. So it was a very, very collaborative process. And to be honest with you, it got better as we went on, because this is
Yep.
the first time they're working together.
True.
Then you've got like all of these execs, you've got different producers, you've got, there's quite a few voices in the room. But then once you work out each other's workflow, you work out, each other's style of communication. Some people are email people, some people are WhatsApp people, some people like to speak on the phone, some people like face to face. So again, outside of the creative, that was one of my roles, is just making sure that this information is being passed in a way that is most effective and can be absorbed as quickly as possible, because it's like we got to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what, right? We've spoken a lot about um Raps's involvement creatively and how you facilitated everyone, right? But you mentioned the execs, and I just thought, so in the midst of cool, this is his vision. We need to rap and make it authentic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What input were the execs giving then?
Oh, the execs had a lot of input as well.
Really?
So yeah, we had two execs from Netflix. We also
Yeah,
had Muqtada Muhammad
yeah,
from New Wave,
hmm,
um, and then Batman himself is an exec on the show.
yeah.
Um, and they all had input creatively and across everything as well. So yeah, it was a really big core team, but again, that was really, really useful. I think when you're someone who works collaboratively, you see the benefit of having so many eyes on so many things. It's harder to miss things if you've got a real strong team of people looking at everything, from script to creative to story to budget. So yeah, but the execs were very, they were very present. I think every single day on set we had at least two execs who were there watching on a monitor.
Oh
Um,
wow. So this all right, so this is so interesting because one of my friends, Noel, he was breaking down to me just the differences of how you would pitch to a streamer, particular channels. You know, like everyone's kind of got their own identity. Like a channel 4 is different from a BBC Three, from a Netflix, from Amazon, da 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 da. So what kind of inputs were coming from the execs, or was it because my perception is like, okay, that's mainly gonna be that's probably gonna be like, things about budget and less creative because
no, no, no,
perhaps
no,
loads of creative, but then yeah, it'll be interesting. That's probably not the case, is it?
not at all. It was like separate to the creative. We'd have meetings on budget, we'd have cost report meetings, we'd go through the budget to see just where we were with things,
Yeah.
weekly. However, from a creative perspective, they were also very much across story. We also had a story producer, who was kind of in the writing in the writing rooms and in the story meetings with Ratman and mainly Steve Searle, one of the execs. So there were there was definitely a lot of creative input as well from the execs.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, they're pretty much across everything.
That is so helpful. Wow. Okay. So, given that you are, what I love, one thing that I love about you, right, is that you are very much, let's say, in the industry, or you do like amazing projects like Supacell, Stay Close, etc., right? But then you're always doing like shorts and
Always, always, always. I'm always going to be making short films, always, because I think it's such a beautiful medium, and I think people miss a trick when they look at short films as like just a means to an end. Like, I'm making just a proof of concept for this feature, or just a proof of concept for this show, or I'm just doing this until I land my first TV show. Short films, in and of themselves, are an incredible medium where you have to tell a great amount of story or give some information or make people feel something in like 5, 10, 15 minutes. I think it's such an interesting space, and it stretches you creatively. And that's where I started. I'm always going to be working on short films, whether that's producing or exec producing.
Mm,
I think it's a great way to discover new talent as well, but I also think it's a great way to stretch your creative muscles and just tell really incredible stories within a very limited period of time. I love short films.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I can tell you do love them. You do.
I always get ideas, like where I'm like, oh, I really want to I want to tell this story. Let me find a way to do it. And I don't think it's something you can switch off, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's good. The creative muscle is
Yeah,
always there with you.
yeah,
I love that. So, given that you'll always be doing short films, right? And you'll always be doing amazing big projects as well. What would you say is the difference in your process between doing a short and doing, like a show for Netflix, let's say?
what's that? Sorry.
Like the difference in your process between doing a show for Netflix and a short film.
Oh, it's very, very different.
Okay.
Um, I think with a short film, it's usually I would get like a burst of inspiration or a spark of inspiration. Like I would just have an idea,
Hmm.
and then I have to think about, okay, how do I raise the finance I need to get this made, or just how do I make it happen? Who do I need to speak
Mm,
to tell this story? I guess with the bigger projects, depending on what it is and where it is when I come get involved, usually there is already finance in place. So the
yep.
how is more just a case of how do we use this finance to create this show? So you're starting at quite a different point in the
Mm,
yeah. I'd say
that
that's
makes
the biggest
sense.
difference in terms of starting, and then obviously in terms of process throughout.
Yeah.
Um, you have obviously a lot more budget and
Hmm.
a bigger team, bigger crew, bigger cast, etc. You're shooting for a longer period of time, so there are a lot of differences. But at the same time, there's a lot of these. It's the same transferable skills. The question is, it's the how of the what. It's the how. How do you get this done? How does this go from an idea to a show to something that people can watch and interact with?
I love that. I love it. I love it. Now, you, like we've covered, you have really helped to birth this vision and translate it and make it what 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 we're all seeing now, right? Um, what would you say makes a good producer?
Oh, I think what makes a good producer? I think good communication skills are really, really important. Being
Hmm.
able to speak to everybody and anybody, because you are responsible for from everybody. HODs, runners, and everybody in between should be able to approach you and communicate with you, both again creatively in terms of what they need to do, but also if anything's like troubling them, if they have any concerns about production at all, they should be able to communicate with you. Um,
Mm.
as well as that, you're also communicating with the execs, potentially with commissioners, depending on what kind of show you're working on. So yeah, all round good communication.
Yeah.
Um, I would personally say like a calm temperament. I think you have to be able to problem solve. Um, and so being able to be calm under pressure and not panic, because when you panic, that's when you make bad decisions.
Mm,
You know, those decisions could cost money, whether again that's on like a short film or a feature film or a TV show. Bad decisions as a producer will probably cost you money, and that's the last thing you want to do
yep,
is eat the budget unnecessarily.
yep.
Um, and I've mentioned it already, but I'd mention it as a very specific point is problem solving. Um,
Mm,
being able to look at information, take a step back, and make decisions kind of decisions which are not based on emotion at the time, but decisions which are made on the facts. So I'm an Aquarius, so I live in that space. But just being able to just take a step back and look at the data and make a decision based on the information in front of you, without panicking. So yeah, those are the three things I would say are really, really important. But um, yeah, people skills I think are incredibly important. You could have a crew of people, and if they cannot communicate with you about their ideas, about their problems, about not personal problems, but their problems in terms of on the show,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
then there's a problem, and then things begin to things can quite quickly escalate when it could have just been an email or a phone call or a can I have a
yeah.
quick chat that this is not working, we're not quite sure about this or whatever. So I think that's probably the most important thing.
Wow. So with that, right, given that communication is so important, I love
Mm.
your point about some people are um text people, some people are email
Right,
people, some people are phone calls, right? Which I think just in life we can sometimes take for granted and take it personally when someone's not getting back to us.
right, definitely.
Because people are so different and
Mm.
you are at the helm of all the departments, how do you facilitate like 10 or 20 different people
Yeah,
who you have to like, oh yeah, but yeah, they I just gotta call this person, or no, I have to email this. How do you
yeah.
do that? And then
There's a
make everyone feel like they can come to
yeah.
you. Like,
Yeah. Well, again, first of all, it's having a great production team. So being able
true.
to delegate and
Yeah,
being able to say, okay, like, all right, you deal with that, you deal with that conversation. There's an issue here. Can you deal with that? So you're able to delegate specific threads and specific aspects to specific members of within your team.
yep.
Um, but then also just actually that being very aware of you've sent an email, who needs a phone call? Oh, I'm just going to call him because I know he might not have seen the email. And the thing is, everyone's really busy and everyone's also shooting. So some of the time when you're waiting for an email, someone's on set and they're not going to see your email until they wrap. And to be honest with you, after they wrap, they're not really supposed to be working because they've wrapped. So it's actually being very, very aware of, yeah, like who is available, who's not available, when's the best time to catch someone, even knowing, okay, this person's at this location today, so I'll just drive down so I can
Mm,
have a quick chat because it's super important. Um, Going back to your previous question about what's really important skills, just being
yeah.
very, very organized. So again, knowing if something needs to be done by next week and you have to speak to someone, where can I catch them for that conversation? So
Mm,
it's kind of, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, but you have to be on top of it all.
yep.
um and again, not don't let the stress, you have to be able to kind of transmute that energy of
Mm.
like pressure into like action. And yeah, I think I love it, like I absolutely love it.
Yeah, you do.
I literally I light up when I talk about it because I love that kind of thing because again, we've done it on the short. I've been doing it for like 15 plus years. So I know when there's a problem, there's always a solution. Some solutions are better than others, but there's always a way to sort something out. Like there's always a way. It's just like what's the best way to fix this problem,
Yeah.
and to make sure that everyone's happy, directors happy, execs are happy, and you have a great show. And sometimes not everyone's happy, but what's the
Mm.
best way to just get things moving? Um, so yeah, that's kind of that's what we
Oh.
do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Sheila, it's been amazing chatting with you. Everyone, Supercell is out now, as you all already know. But no, well done, because this is an achievement and a half. I mean, doing a production for Netflix is one thing, but doing something so groundbreaking, and I couldn't think of anyone else like who would be at the helm of it. It's like, and you're from South. It's just like, who else is going to do it? Who else is going to do it?
Are you from South as well, Pierre?
No, I'm from East. Yes, I am from East, but I appreciate
No,
South.
that's all good. You know what? I think, yeah. Anyway, I won't go into like the different, like, north, south, east, west, but I think there's definitely a connection between south and east.
Yeah,
I still feel south is just a couple steps ahead, but all good. Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Like this in London as well. No, but thank you. And even when you say at the helm, though, and again, it's not even like false humility or anything like that. I always have to be super clear that I really like. We had an amazing team. Batman was very much at the helm, and I was part of the team of producers that brought this show to life, and I feel very, very honored, because again, to me, this is history, this is legacy, and this is part of like the bigger picture in terms of broadening the narrative of where we see Black British characters in genres in which we've never been before. Like, this is a big part of that movement.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well done. And we shall catch up soon.